Anyway, you'd think a man growing up in New Mexico, cowboy, would turn out some rough and rowdy character, disheveled and dirty. Nope, not Murph. He was a true gentleman, a rare gem, impeccably dressed and put together from head to toe. Or maybe I should say skis to helmet. He was always a straight shooter. You always knew where you stood. And if he had a bone to pick with you, he'd look you right in the eye and say so. He just set things straight. At the same time, he was never short of gracious comments and positive suggestions. He lived by a code of mutual respect that was always kind, honest, fair, and sincere. Save maybe one day, Pat didn't have bad days. And he did everything to make sure that everyone in his presence had a good day too. Pat will always be remembered by his character. He was the kind of man that lived life fully and completely and inspired us to do the same. Of course, there was never any question that his wife, Linda, was the center of his universe. Pat tried to quit the snow sports school a couple of times. He'd say, I'm getting too old for this. I probably ought to move on. Things are changing. I'd say, well, we'd certainly miss you. Seems like you'd miss it, and I know your clients will miss you. That frankly, I don't think your clients are gonna let you quit. He'd say, you're probably right. I'll let you know. Then he'd be back the following year with more people wanting to ski with him. Every person we let into our lives leaves us with some kind of impression and may even influence our direction. Pat was certainly no exception. You couldn't help but take notice. Murph was a captain, a leader, and a real social influencer. There's this distant memory I have of a conversation with someone I've long forgotten. The exchange was something like, when you pass on, it doesn't really matter. When you're gone, you're gone. Like Murph, those that choose to cultivate good relationships with friends, family, and even strangers absolutely do live on in the memories of everyone they touch. His physical body left us on a beautiful spring day, just like today, surrounded by the people and the place that he loved. Murph is not entirely gone. He's still sitting in that chair in the locker room, having a ridiculously strong cup of coffee. Putting on his boots, banging them on the floor as if he was preparing himself to ride a bull out of the chute. Just enjoying himself, listening to everyone chat and commiserate before the start of the day. You would catch Murph and Bill sharing a sideways glance and a chuckle about something they heard or saw in the locker room. It was like this unspoken inside joke that only they understood without saying a word. We must all be thankful we knew Murph. Let's take his gift and make him proud. Cheers, everyone.
I remember when I started a few years ago and met Pat here, I always remember to look at him as a high level of expectation, the way he dressed, how professional he was. Always take his ski back home every day to tune them. And me, I maybe wax my ski once every 2 years for him. So one day I asked him to show me, so he invited me to his house, to the garage. And his garage is nicer than my living room. He has carpet on the floor for his dogs and all his equipment, and he showed me how to tune skis, and everything he was doing was always precise and constant always, and the quality he was doing. And it was always this high experience. Looking at him, so okay, I need to buckle my boots, I need to close my jacket. So he was bringing the whole group up, and so.
He never had a pocket open.
Yeah. No.
That I remember Pat saying is, let's all take care of one another. That morning we were sitting in the locker room at our morning meeting, and I think that is an embodiment of Pat. And his refrain over and over that morning was, let's just take care of each other. Let's watch out for each other. Let's pay attention to how everybody around us is doing and take care of one another. As we were right in the light of COVID really getting kind of started. And his mantra that morning was, let's watch out for each other.
I bring up a different point of Pat. Of course, I was with Billy and he I didn't know that he was a rodeo cowboy until after he passed, but it makes all the sense. I can remember coming up early one morning in the car. He had his Tacoma pickup truck. I was driving a BMW, and he decided to race me. And he won. Not because his car was faster, but he was more willing to do it. A lot of ski racing, and he and Dan and some of them were talking about the racing. I learned a lot about what was going on. So he was competitive in a sense, and he certainly loved to ski and fast. We'll all miss him. God love you. God love you.
One of the things I remember Pat saying was, old Pat would have beat the crap out of him. New Pat, not so much. So he definitely had different lives. That was before and after drinking, I think.
Yeah.
He stopped drinking.
To sobriety.
It brought him to sobriety. Yeah, he told stories about his drinking days, bar fights, and all sorts of fun.
I'd just like to say, he was usually, him and Bill were the first ones there in the locker room, like 7:30 in the morning. He'd be racing me to get there, to open the door. But he would also always, ask how you're doing. And I was talking with Ryan yesterday about it, and she's got something going on why she can't be here. And she said that whenever she'd run into Pat, she would see him all over the hill. He's always everywhere. It seemed like she'd run into him. And he would stop and ask her, how are her kids doing? And he seemed like he was really present and interested in, other people's lives and, like you said, making those connections. I just wanted to pass that on from Ryan and say that, Pat was a great presence. And I remember one story I want to talk about. I'm pretty sure this was Pat's. We did yoga in the locker room at like 7 o'clock in the morning on the weekends for a little while. Until we were doing yoga, and then Pat comes in, and he's like, "This is my locker room. This is not a yoga studio. Find somewhere else to do your yoga." And we found somewhere else to do our yoga. Definitely miss that guy.
There was definitely an impish side to him. I can still see that sort of smile. He was a smarty pants, and those of you, did you guys participate in the senior specialist one? Larry, weren't you there for that?
Oh yeah.
Bob? Yeah, and that whole
Both
scenario, I got to hear all about it when we did the senior specialist 2 together.
Yeah.
About how they had to give this group, Schweitzer, a different clinician for that because you guys gave Kim such a bad time
You were
for that. So there was definitely the impish side, and it was the old guys and their flatulence problems that caused it.
Geezer Row? Geezer Row.
Jody started calling that.
It's a proud distinction. It's not a put down.
The Muppets,
The old
man
Muppets.
Yeah.
From Astoria?
Yes.
Yeah, those guys. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Cheers, everybody.
I can't drink this coffee, and
Yeah.
I love strong coffee.
Please, dump it right up next to the tree so we don't, if you have any extras, so we're not just all over the snow.
So we put the hearts up for Pat and he.
All right. Our run is Ridge. It was freshly groomed this morning. Just be really careful. We're a pretty big group. Take your time. Let's get down safe.